Well, it's interesting. There was this guy. Have you ever heard of Josh Nelson?
Yeah. Seven-figure agency based in Miami.
Yeah, I was.
How big is his agency? You think it's like 3 million or something like that, right?
Yeah, he does pretty good as far as I can tell. And actually, um, he he stole a client of mine a long time ago. It's like I knew that it was him that took a plumbing client from me, and it started up a conversation. I wasn't too upset about it. I mean, it's just it happens. I don't blame him
Yeah.
for taking it, because I'd do the same thing. If they came to me and they asked me to do SEO, I would try to take it from them. So there's no hard feelings.
No, I
Um,
mean, like clients go, they switch, they swap out, they go all over the place,
what's up,
So,
Jeremy? Thanks for joining
hey,
us.
Jeremy.
And it was interesting because at the SEO at the beach, it was sort of like he knew about it, I think from like Terry Samuels. And I was like, I would have asked him if I told him I would have asked him to come speak if I knew him better. Like I was like, I just basically the people that I knew the most that I knew who could talk about stuff. And then actually he does HVAC, not just plumbing as well.
hmm hmm
And I was talking about, man, it would be cool if like you and him got on the same stage, and someone else was like, well, but they're competitors. And I'm like, well, sort
Not
of,
really.
but yeah, they're different people, they're different businesses, and honestly,
It's so
like
big. Like, I mean, that's the thing that I think about is like, we're only going to take three clients in any like significantly big size GMB.
yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy is like, "What's up, man? Been a minute. So last I saw you was in Hollywood at Mike's Mastermind."
I'm gonna actually send Josh a message right now, see if he'll join us.
Mhm.
uh yeah, and I thought it'd be pretty cool, because I think even if you guys got together, and even if sometimes he took a client from you or you took a client from him, you guys are kind of competing. I'd like to think that like there's things that you would learn from him and things that he would learn from you, and you put it together, and just the context together would broadly make a be a lot more beneficial
You,
to.
you know, it's kind of like David Mills talks about this, and Elon Musk talks about it also. Like Elon, he had basically he made all of his patents to electric vehicles public,
Mm,
and the reason why he said is because the company exists to advance electric vehicles. And so if he was doing something that was actively preventing other people from doing that, it doesn't, it doesn't make sense. It goes against like his mission. And the thing that we are against is we're against like shitty, agencies, shitty SEO companies, or, agencies that are like giving people a bad name. And so, anybody who's doing a good job with their clients, who's doing good SEO or, providing really good services, like, I mean, more power to them. And, we wish them the best. And we know there's enough for everybody to eat,
yeah.
like, the aspirations that I have with my agency is, in the next couple of years to hit rather not 10 figures, in the next couple of years to hit 8 figures. Um,
Yeah.
and after that, I mean, like, who knows? Like, could we get to 9 figures? Like, I don't know. I don't know what people would have to be on the team to make that happen. But even with that, there's plenty of people, to work with.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a small set of people who I feel like who have actually niched down. I think it's really hard for a lot of people to do that, to say no to some of what they consider to be business, to be kind of almost like to say no to money. And that's why I thought of Josh Nelson and you, because you're one of the few sets of people that that have made that decision and kind of can see from the other side of what it's like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's really valuable.
Well, I mean, the biggest problem is that like people just they don't know how to get clients on demand, and they don't know how to get clients within a niche. Like, because if they did, they would just do that, and there's a scarcity, I think, around client getting, and that's the thing that really is, preventing people from doing that. And I get it, like 1,000%, because like I was totally in that. I mean, how I got my first clients was, I remember, you had done so well with Dallas SEO. I did the same thing with Jersey City SEO, and then NJ SEO, and then it was networking. But like when you get clients in those ways, you can't. You know what I mean? It's really tough to niche down. You can't, because it's like, well, how could you? Like you're just getting what comes through your website. Those website leads, or you're getting what you can through your networking.
Yeah. And I think there's also the idea of people thinking like our brains not being very good at estimating the real cost of things. And looking at like what's the cost of serving two different niches or all the niches versus serving one niche. And you have what would it be like? So you serve HVAC. What would it be
Mhm.
like if you, like, in terms of your not just your sales systems and your service systems, like how much more work would it be to sell to even just one more niche and to service one more niche?
Yeah, it would suck. Well, I mean, the other thing also is like we just wouldn't be as good. Like we just would not be as good as we are with HVAC. So, like one of the things that I've said quite a few times, and I truly believe in, like the best way to get good at SEO is by like doing SEO.
Mm.
If you want to get really good, just like do more projects, and you just like figure things out, and you just get a little bit better. And that's like when it comes to SEO in HVAC, which is our niche, like we know all of the keywords, but like it's not like just the keywords, it's we also know like all of the services that our clients, that are important to our clients. And we know so much about their businesses. We know so much about their pain points. We know like, oh, if they're $1 million, this is what they're dealing with. But if they're $5 million, this is what they're dealing with now. And those are different, or the different times of the year, and what they need to focus on, and what are the issues within their business. And like all of that information allows us to compete at a really, really high level. I mean, if you think about it, like how can, like if somebody decided to go after the HVAC niche, and like please go ahead, I personally give you permission to do that. But um, like, do you really think that, like, like what are the chances that you're going to do a better job, with your very first HVAC client, on SEO versus somebody who's done, over 100 HVAC clients, HVAC SEO deals? It's like, because through the period of like doing those over 100, HVAC projects, like we already had our system, we
Mhm.
already had our like SEO methodology. And what we've done is like, our SOP. And after every single, project, we've just gone back to the SOP, and we're like, oh, let's make it a little bit better. Let's make it a little bit
Mhm.
better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And like those incremental gains make it where, I mean, like I outcompete myself from a year ago. Like PM Now outcompetes PM Now from a year ago, and from 2 years ago. I can't even believe it. Like when we first started the agency, like I can't, like really can't believe like the mistakes that we were making on the SEO front, just like the product front. And we just had no idea, and it took 100, more than 100 clients for us to really refine the system.
And you might get even more context as you go along. I think that there's so much extra context. I think that is not looked into and not well understood. You don't know what's there until you go in and dig around, and you think
Yeah.
that, oh well, is it really that different to do HVAC SEO versus like a law firm SEO? There are some similar principles, but there's a lot of little things, like you said, knowing their pain points. That's going to be really good for sales. This is going to be really good for retention. And even it's going to be really good potentially for actually getting them good quality results when
Yeah.
they need it, and understanding that like when what the because HVAC is cyclical, and it's going to be different. It's even going to be different you're going to even have differences between different clients, especially with HVAC, because an HVAC company in Minnesota is going to be different than an HVAC company in Dallas, right? Because of the nature of the weather. The systems are going to be different. Maybe the keywords are going to be even different. And so all those differences, just imagine trying to figure that out for a bunch of different niches. And I think that there's a default assumption. There's people who sell courses like this, and I think that it's not that you can't have an agency like this, but of having like an agency that serves all people and all niches with all digital marketing services. And I think you can be successful with that, but the costs, there's lots of connective tissue costs. So if you imagine having sales systems to talk to lawyers versus to talk to HVAC people, and then you have to also have systems that connect those systems together. There's a lot of extra costs there that I don't think are taken into account. So as a result, these big agencies that serve all things, their profit margins are super low. Like I've talked to an owner of one of those. I mean, his profit margin is 8%. Like,
get out of here. You might as well. Well, that's surprising. It's that low, but yeah, I mean, compared to 70%.
Right.
which is like where you can have your agency gross margin. One thing that I've been like leaning into more is, it's really funny because like as PM now has grown, right now we're knocking on $2 million a year. That's like our run rate. Like I think we're like maybe 15,000 away from it, but like as we've grown, it's funny because like my focus and like what I think is important in the agency has changed. And right now, like one of the big things we're looking at is, how much like your relationship with your clients matters, and bringing this like to a niche approach. Like half of that relationship, I would say, is just setting the right expectations. I mean, if I say to you like, hey, on Monday, I'm going to give you $500, and you're like, oh my God, amazing. And then Monday rolls around, I give you $300. Like you still got 300, but you're upset because you're like, I thought it was going to be 500, and you're not looking at like the fact that you actually are up, $300. And that's the same thing with the clients. It's like, it needs to be the right expectations. And when we work with clients, like we know what their industry looks like. And so we know like, hey, it's even regional, so just to give you an example, like people we have like the shoulder season. So what it means is our clients are really busy in the summer. And then like in the fall, they have a shoulder season where it drops. And then it gets busy again in the winter, like in the beginning months of the winter, for furnaces and stuff. And then goes into another shoulder season. But the shoulder season is different if they're, in the northern United States versus the southern United States.
Yeah.
It's like delayed by like 6 weeks, so we can talk to our clients who are like in Massachusetts or in Illinois, and we can let them know in August, like, hey, your shoulder season's coming up, so we're going to expect the calls to drop. Just so like our rankings are strong as ever. It's not indicative of the SEO. It's just like, we get you the visibility, but the demand is controlled by the weather. But you have that conversation 6 weeks later for your clients that are in, Texas and Florida and California. And so, it's just like, even to maintain the relationship and to have everybody like happy with your service, like that's where the niche expertise, it just continues to pay off over and over and over again. I mean, I would hate to deal with, like, if we got a lawyer on board, I would hate to just have, actually, to have that conversation where they're like, oh, what are my most important keywords? Like, honestly, I have no idea. I actually do have a client of mine. He's a friend, and he runs like he's like a therapist in Jersey City, and he's like absolutely crushing it. But yeah, that has come up on our update calls, where he's like, yeah, so Michael, what should I do? Like asking me about like keywords or stuff about the business. And I just, or even with a dental client, a legacy client that I've had, where I just throw up my hands. Like, what did they ask me? They asked me, oh yeah, they're like, oh, this is our bounce rate. That's exactly what they asked me. This is the bounce rate on my Google Analytics. Is this good or bad? And I literally had to tell them, I'm like, I've got no idea. You're my only dental client.
Yeah.
If I had like 15 other ones, I could tell you, I would have that information. And even if I didn't know it, I could like look in my Google Analytics, like I'd figure it out, find out like what the great bounce, an appropriate bounce rate was. But
Yeah. You have the data and when did you guys start your HVAC SEO agency? When was it?
late 2019.
So it's been 2 years, and let me ask you this: is there still more sales and service systems improvement possibilities?
Tons.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
gosh,
one
so
niche,
much,
one
so
service.
much.
You guys have been busting your ass. I know you and Eric have been working really hard on it.
Mm.
And there's still more room for improvement. And I just want to like emphasize now try to extract that out to serving, either all niches or doing all services or both, and think about how much more work there is in the systems, or just how maybe if you don't do as much work, they're less efficient, as you pointed out. Like you just can't service them as well. You don't.
Yeah,
There's things you don't know that you can't know without that direct experience. So I'm really
it's like I kind of like I wrestled in high school and a little bit in college. And this is something that I had said at Cocoa Beach is I remember when I was in high school, like people like coaches who'd been around for decades telling me, so you can be a state champion if you have three moves. And like I didn't believe them. I was in high school and like I just didn't believe them. They're like, yeah, you only need three moves: one takedown, one escape, and one pinning combination. If you have that, then you could win states. And the thing that they didn't say, or maybe they said and I just wasn't paying attention, but like you can if you are like a master of those three moves. And when I was in high school and I was a wrestler, I thought that the key to winning was to know more moves. Like, oh, I lost that match because I didn't know a move, rather than thinking like, well, actually, the reason you lost the match is because you aren't amazing at that one move that you're strongest in. Like, if you were just stronger in that one move that you're really good at, you would have won that match. And it's the same thing I think in business, where like it's not about more, a lot of times it's actually about less. It's like less is more. Like you want less going on and just do it better, just do more better.
more better.
um More better is what it's about. Like
Narrowing,
you,
I
you know
saw narrowing your focus and it increases your power.
yeah,
Uh,
narrowing your focus it increases your power. And it's also like it's like, let call a spade a spade. Like, digital marketing is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Like, you don't need any overhead. People need the service. They're dying for the service. They're willing to spend thousands of dollars with you a month because it's that valuable. And then you've got insane profit margins. Like, don't you think a lot of people want to offer those services to people? Like, of course they do, And so it's like, you're competing against those people, and like you need to be better. You need to have an edge. And the way that you get an edge is not by reading blog posts and not by like dabbling in services. Like, you need to
mm,
develop real expertise in a service, whether it's SEO or Google ads, Facebook ads, or whatever it is. By the way, I would highly recommend that you go super deep into SEO, because it gives the best return on investment for
mhm.
clients, which
For the
means you have your
clients
strong.
and for an agency as well, because I've done all the
Yep.
services in the past and I don't like them. They're just not as profitable. I don't like
They're not as
website.
profitable. And then like the retention, and that's the thing. It's like, getting clients. Um, it's easy, like it's simple, but it's not easy. Like, it's simple if you know what to do, but like it does take a lot of executing to make it
Mm,
happen. But you since it is work to get a client, you want to hold on to them as long as you can. And that's what's so beautiful about SEO, is the
yeah, I
fact
think I
that
could learn
you
more
can
about that
retain them.
from you guys. I've been talked to Eric about that a good bit, and some of the strategies that you guys have. I want to actually make I want to circle back around to the 3 moves, but first I want to, well, people in here, I'm going to post this is so if you want to have more of Micheal and or me talking about client SEO, and you want to do it in person, SEO at the Beach in February 18th and 19th of 2022. I posted at SEOatthebeach.com in the chat. So there's actually a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and he talks about this, and he mentions that a lot of people think that success is about doing like 10,000 things really well, and he's like, actually it's about doing somewhere on the order of 3 to 5 things really well 10,000 times, and that is more what you look at. It's kind of the boring answer, and it's not as sexy as, you know, having like all these bag of tricks in, you know, that you have, but really what it comes down to is doing some things really well. That's actually more valuable to society. To this is why like generalists don't make as much money, because they're not as valuable to society. Literally, like they're not as valuable to society, they're not as valuable to clients if they can just kind of do it, if they just dabble. And so I identified SEO a long time ago as very profitable. I also think that it'll be around forever, because even if it's not Google, the value to society of being able to search for Brad Pitt's birthday or whatever on Google or whatever, you know, that's not going away.
I love that that's your example.
My example, Brad Pitt's birthday.
Have you been using that example for a long time? Is that always, has that always been your example?
I always try to throw in something silly, like just some random celebrity. It's just how many times you just like, how old is that guy? And like 30 years ago,
how tall is Tom Cruise?
Right. How tall is Tom Cruise? Right. That's another good example. Like, you just wouldn't know. You just couldn't know, especially that thing. Nobody would have published that. But now Google will give you that answer, having a search engine. I think it points out like kind of the differential of your ability to know. You can know that in 3 seconds versus 30 years ago, you just wouldn't know. Like, there's no time. Maybe you could try to find him and stalk him, and months later you can figure it out. Right. But go ahead.
I was just going to say, I got a question for you, like David, and for everybody who's here also, like, if you guys could chime in, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Like, it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me like there's less like new entrants or less like new people who are like, yes, SEO is like the path that I'm going to take with my agency. I feel like, you know, if I look at like the young entrepreneurs, you know what I mean? Like the 20-something guy who's just like, all right, I got to figure out something in this online space to do. If they do go into digital marketing versus like, you know, crypto or all this other crap out there, not to say it's garbage, but, you know,
get it.
If they do go into digital agency space, it seems like to me that they're all going for like Facebook ads, you know, or something else rather than SEO, which is like, I just get like, you know, I feel so bad for them, because I'm like, you know, you're going to have such a better go of things if you go after SEO. It's like, one, do you think that's true? And two, like, if so, like, why do you think that's the case?
Does anybody who's live here have a question?
Somebody, Moinuddin said, yes, it's like sell ads, SMMA, coaching is more the SMMA agencies. Yeah, it seems like everybody's going after that.
What's SMMA? Is that
social media management?
Well, I guess I think it's because, I wonder if it's because it seems simpler, and it actually is simpler to some degree. Like SEO does seem kind of complex from the outside, but it's like anything else with any significant amount of focus. You can get good enough at it to be good. And I think that there's probably more to the Facebook ads. You know, it seems like I've heard people say things about Facebook ads. Oh, you can start getting customers like fucking tomorrow, but that's not really how it works, because you need to build like a whole funnel for that stuff. And so I think it's more involved than what people think. And SEO is less involved, even though it does take focus and expertise like anything else. And maybe it's just less sexy because it's been around a long time. And the ones already doing SEO are even building more agencies, sites, affiliates, projects, and so on. Yeah. Also, I wonder, is it Timo? If it has to do with just like how many times people have said like SEO is dead. And so that has kind of gotten into people's brains, and they think that it's just going to go away. It's going to go away. Also, there's this idea. Go ahead. I have this theory. Well, I have this idea that like everybody thinks that SEO is chaotic as well. I think there's this idea that it's always changing. And actually, I think I can count on like one hand the amount of like fundamental algorithm changes that Google has had since in the last 20 years. While for specific niches and maybe a specific project, you can have a project that loses 97% of its traffic overnight. But the core fundamentals of Google's algorithm, I don't think there's been that many major changes. And so there's a lot of common threads that you could have worked on 10 years ago that still work today.
I think that, because I got started with SEO, and I got started with SEO, and like that's how I like built like my stable base, and I kept on straying because I thought to scale, like I needed something easier to sell. Like I thought that I'm like, oh, like I'm getting these SEO sales and I'm building up my agency, but it's not going fast enough. Oh, I need something else to sell. Like it'll be easier for me to sell Google ads. It'll be easier for me to sell Facebook ads. And what's wild is like what I realized is it turns out it was just as hard to sell Google ads and Facebook ads. The only difference is that my retention wasn't going to be as high, which
and it wasn't gonna be nearly as profitable. It's much your profit margin on Facebook ads is small, and I think for your customers it's smaller, and so they make that. Yeah, I think you're totally right. I hear a lot of kind of foot in the door strategies, and I think that there's some validity to them to some degree, but I think sometimes it's almost as hard to sell them a $20 thing as it is to sell, if they have the budget to sell, especially if you're targeting like a lawyer, like selling them $100 thing versus selling them a $2,000 package. I wonder if there really is that big of a difference.
Well, I would say you don't even want those clients. Like I would strongly suggest you do not want those clients, because like one thing that I like, Eric and I, we talk a lot about how are we going to expand and what are the ways, and it has come across like multiple times, like, oh, like a downsell or something that we could sell to people who are just getting started, because right now we really only work with HVAC contractors who are above 500,000 last year's revenue, last 12 months. And we just know like everybody who's been into our business, who's just getting started, like they just demand more. They've got less free time on their hands, so they're constantly like checking up. Like we offer our clients monthly update calls. We send them a monthly video, to let them know how we're doing, and then we offer the update call. But what we've noticed is like most of our clients don't take us up on it. If they all did, it would actually be a major, major problem for us because we wouldn't have time to actually do the work, right?
Yeah.
But the ones who seem to really like take us up on it was, the smaller clients. And by raising our prices, to where I remember when we first started it, we said, like, I was talking to Eric and just 2 years ago, all right, so the absolute bare minimum 750. And then after a couple of months, like, well, the absolute bare minimum is 1,000. And now like the absolute bare minimum is 1,600, and we just don't go under it. And it filters out a lot of the people that you don't want.
This seems like something that Eric would have, I think he had some trouble with this at first, because I remember talking to him a couple of years ago, and he's like, money is money. I think you remember him having a conversation with him about that. I don't know. You tell me if you saw this.
You're right. You're totally right.
And we had some conversations about like, well, these people, they were asking for 400. Can't you just do it for 400? I'm just like, it's not worth for me personally, for my agency, it's not worth it's just the brain space to be responsible for them, for them to be able to call me, for them to be able to email me. $400 a month isn't worth it. And not that like, if you're starving or you need to fucking pay rent, then okay, you take what you got to do, but it's not something to build off of. It's not something that you can grow into. And he even told me just recently, he's like, he just recently had like an epiphany about like, oh, like, actually now it's finally at the point where like if somebody called him from another niche, he would tell them no, which is a big deal for Eric, because Eric is willing to work his ass off and he wants the money. So
yeah. I think it actually goes back to, this idea of like your focus, and really shiny object syndrome is the killer because, you know, if all you did were just like focus on that one lane and just get better and better and better and better at it, like you're going to go way further than if you like deviated and like, oh, well, what if I did this other thing? Like maybe I could make it work faster. And that's really like what, has happened with Eric. Like, and he and I, we talk about this all the time is, like I'll literally say like out loud, like very explicitly, it's like we got to be cool with being bored. Like we have to be totally cool with being bored, and we have to look at our business as like where are the bottlenecks, and let's like focus in and try to get creative and excited about, breaking through on those bottlenecks, but knowing that, it's going to be boring because, we're not doing NFTs, we're not doing like whatever, this drop shipping or whatever. We're staying in our lane and we're just getting better and better and better at it.
And I think that's great because there's always going to be more. And also I think of it as there's unlimited opportunity. Literally, from all practical perspectives, there's unlimited opportunity and you cannot get it all. So don't worry about missing some of it. It actually kind of is relieving to me. That's just like there's no one in the world can capture every possible beneficial opportunity they can take, not even close. So you focus in on what is kind of building a house, building towards a cohesive set of goals, which for you guys, this could be a niche SEO agency that could totally get to 8 figures. I 100% believe that is imminently achievable for you guys. Like there's plenty of business and still be room to grow. So you're going to have to ignore those opportunities. Actually, Ronnie asks, what do you find to be really good strategies for getting new SEO clients? We'll start with you, Micheal, unless you want me to touch on
Yeah.
it.
So, what we did to get from zero to our first 40K a month, what we did was we hired a call team. So we hired US contractors to do cold calling and set up appointments for my business partner, Eric. Um, and one thing I do like to point out is like I did close our very first deal. So like you don't need to be like superstar Eric to close deals, from these teams. Like plenty of people have done it just by like, having a decent sales process. But yeah, we found that got us to our first 40K in just a couple of months. And then after that, we focused really big on nurturing our referral partners, so other agencies, other companies that operate in our niche that can refer us business. And that's actually something that we continue to nurture. So, for example, like we spent a lot of time building up those relationships, but now a couple of months ago, we started up the call team again. And part of what we do with the call team is we use them to build leads or to get leads for our referral partners. So we know that like, that's a way that we're just continuing to move those relationships forward. So, um, and I think I had mentioned earlier, like when I just got started without going into a niche, I ranked for Jersey City SEO, and then I ranked for NJ SEO, and then I did BNI. I did networking for a while.
And how was the city SEO for you? How was that for you? Did you get some good clients from that?
City SEO, like Jersey City, maybe got me 2 clients in a couple of years. NJ SEO, while I ranked number 1, it got me maybe a client every 3 months, I would say. But NJ SEO ranking there was also very helpful because it gave me confidence in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gave me a nice little like bragging rights for when I was networking, I would tell people like, hey, I ranked number 1 for NJSEO. And then when I was speaking to prospects, I'd let them know like, hey, I ranked here.
That's
So
actually an SEO technique, what you were doing. I want to point out to people, here's a hot SEO tip for that kind of thing. That what that's going to do is it's going to get people to search for New Jersey SEO, looking for Micheal Tesalona, and his engagement metrics are going to be crazy high for that. So what it'll do is it'll lock you into place. So you were
yeah,
probably, once you got there and you started telling people about it, and not only that, but he's telling people about it people who are in New Jersey. So I want you to think about, like, this is actually a critical, one of the few changes in Google's algorithm over the years is engagement. They track engagement. And I have some case studies where it's just kind of crazy. It's the ultimate trump card, but you kind of have to be ranking in the first place.
Well,
Are you
what's
still
really
ranking for
cool
that?
is yeah, my business partner, Dan Anton, knocked me out of that.
Ah,
Yeah, yeah.
what a dick.
Right. But actually, as it turns out, well, like what I was doing though when I was ranking there and when I was networking is, I'd go to a networking meeting and there would be like 40, 50 people in the room, and I'd tell them all to take out their cell phones
Nice.
and to Google it, yeah, and to click on it.
Yeah,
So that's it's those
it
two work
works.
work really well.
So when I mean, way back in 2013, I got to be number one for Dallas SEO expert, and I was doing BNI, and I was like super excited. It was like my first big success, like kind of with ranking a site. And so I told them all, and they all went and searched up Dallas SEO expert looking for me. And I was locked in that number one space, even after I got penalized by Penguin for Dallas SEO experts. Like later on in the year, I was 82nd, but I was still number one for Dallas SEO expert. So I want you to think about how powerful that engagement is. A quick, we're getting a little off topic from the thing, but I think just a quick SEO tip for you. If there's a lot of guerrilla ways, think about that, to where you can get people to do searches. Google said CTR isn't part of their algorithm. That's just total bullshit. The ability, how, think about more broadly how visitors respond to their search results, they are critically interested in. And so consider that. So you got a few clients from New Jersey SEO, but it wasn't scalable. It wasn't something that you could kind of, oh, I want more clients, let me just tap this harder, right? Because you were number one. There's not much more to go, right?
Yeah, and the other thing also is, like, I didn't really know it at the time, or maybe I wouldn't admit it at the time, but like I wasn't like the best SEO back then. Like I had a great process, but the issue is that running a business, there's a lot of like spinning plates. You got to keep like a lot of plates spinning. And so what would happen is, even though I had a good process and I had like, the knowledge to do well, um, I would be spending most of my time like trying to get new clients, and then not really focusing necessarily on the existing clients that I had, or maybe I would do the work for my clients, but I would like maybe skip like a step or forget to cross my T's or dot my I's, like little, just mistakes here and there. And that resulted in me losing clients because, I wouldn't fulfill at the right level. And the worst part about it actually also is it actually knocked my confidence, because I was thinking to myself like, oh, sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't, not realizing that, well, the problem is not that, the problem is just like you're not giving enough attention to these SEO projects like you were like with the very first couple, that came in. And so the reason why I bring this up is because like SEO is amazing, that, once you do have like the formula, once you do have like the trainings, like the training that, David, you put out, the training that we put out in Rainmaker, like it's great because, you have the formula, but you need to work the formula. And you also have to realize like, if it's not working, it's something you did. And,
Mm.
and also like, I mean, this is a luxury that, you'll have as your agency gets bigger, but, you know, people have certain things that they are just like stronger at. What I mean? Like you might be a person that is extremely like detail oriented and task oriented, and you're going to get all the work done at the highest level, and that's what you love. You love doing the SEO work. Phenomenal. That's great. You probably suck at sales. You know, or the other way around. Like you're really good, like conceptual, and you're great at marketing, and you like talking on the phone with people. Most likely, you're going to be a little bit shittier on the fulfillment side. And what's cool is like as people like it's a rare person who can do it all, you know.
Mm.
And so the benefit of growing as an agency is actually putting people in place who are legit better than you at whatever, thing needs to get done. And I feel like the big push for us entrepreneurs is like pushing ourselves personally to grow in areas that we're weak, to keep that plate spinning until, we're able to get somebody else in there.
Yeah. And I think you brought up a good point, because I think you can get really good at the sales and then you sell, but then you don't keep them around. I've definitely done that by not giving them the attention they deserve to the projects. And then you're kind of a little bit asleep at the wheel, or especially when you're serving multiple niches, it's harder to do that. If you have the same niche over and over again, you have a much more clear path, and it's going to just be easier for you to talk to them. I'm curious. So I think I remember Eric talking about, so you have the referral partners. I've heard there's another name. I heard somebody come up with
Power
it, like somebody was
partners.
like, what's that?
Power partners.
It's something like that, where like
Marketing partners. There's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you sell to somebody who can give you a bunch of sales by themselves. So like a CPA who has a bunch of different businesses, or like if there was a CPA that served HVAC only, then that would be like, oh my God, let's talk to him, right? Now you guys are still working to reach out to those kind of people, are you not?
Yeah, went to a trade show a couple of weeks ago, almost exclusively to develop those relationships.
I'll answer my perspective on this, and it's really like while Micheal and I have had different experiences, there's some similar things. I got my first successes were definitely with Dallas SEO, and I think there's a bit more. I don't know if it's just the nature of Dallas or if it's the nature of whatever. There's a bit more of a business there for Dallas SEO. But there's a cap on that only goes so far, in terms of like, I couldn't, I can't just be like, all right, I'm going to get 3 clients a month with this. I kind of have to wait for them to call. So sometimes it comes and goes. Some months they don't call very much. And some months you get a bunch of calls. And the good thing about that kind of call is it's much easier to sell than when you're trying to reach out to somebody. So it's kind of low hanging fruit. It's really, really high. I ask for big prices. I don't take on a lot of clients. But when they come to you that way, already seeing you ranking, that's really good. But like Micheal talked about, you can leverage that and with other people as well. So, I could be doing, and I haven't been doing this, but I could be doing more outbound in the Dallas area, leveraging the rankings that I do have. I just don't really, I'm looking more towards building more of like what Micheal has, which is a niche SEO agency where we can reach out and it can be more predictable. And just started working with Eric Fawcett on a niche SEO agency, somebody looking to build something like that where it's more reliable. I think that
you get a ton of leads on Facebook ads also.
What's that?
You get a ton of leads on Facebook ads, as well.
Okay.
Like that's something maybe we can talk about, because I've been messing around with that a lot. And I figured out a way to get like tons of leads, tons of people raising their hands, signing up for appointments, about like $70 a pop, which is pretty good. The only problem is, like, for me, I haven't figured it out because, they're just lower qualified, since the people we work with need to be a certain level. So I'm just sort of like tweaking that. But I've found that like this goes back to the 3 moves, like mastering 3 moves. Like I think it's about mastering, like you got to pick a client acquisition channel and just master it. You know what I mean? Like you can, anything's going to work. Like email marketing works, networking works, like ranking for different shit, that works. Cold outreach, like cold calling, building out your cold team, like that works. But like, I only got, I'm sorry, David, I got 10 minutes and then I got another call.
I understand. No worries. So get your questions in if you have any questions.
Yeah. But it's like mastering that channel. So like, right now we're building out our call team. And the reason why we're building out our call team is because we're mastering this outbound sales team, channel. Because what's great about it is, like, once that is completely mastered, and the reason why we say it's not mastered yet is because Eric is still closing the deals. Like, we need to build it to the point where we could actually get people in, have them closing the deals, for the team. But Like once that's there, we can scale that up to, I don't know. I mean, probably dozens, if not hundreds of salespeople.
Yeah.
And it's literally like, oh, wait a second, it's just that one channel. It becomes mastered, and now we can just scale up that one channel. And I mean, if you really think about it, like we're not going to need anything. Like if the goal is 8 figures and then maybe 9 figures after that, like that one channel is going to get us a long way towards that goal.
Speaking towards that, there's actually a company, I think it was Reach Local, but I think I'm mixing them up with somebody else. But basically, their model was all cold calling, and they had giant teams of cold callers, and they scaled really quickly because they just sat there and they just called like crazy. I remember in Dallas, they had like a whole like 200 people in just the Dallas area, just cold calling constantly.
Yeah.
And they just tapped the shit out of that one channel, and they didn't do anything else. And they sold digital marketing services. And this is kind of what do you call the dirty dinosaurs or whatever? I think they provided shitty services, but that's not really the point. The point is more about the fact that they were able to grow really, really quickly because they had a formula for selling on the phone and where they could put people into it. And it doesn't even have to be, the person doesn't have to be nearly as good as Eric. If they can sell even a tenth as good, if they can close 10% at the rate that Eric closes, then that's still great because you can build off of that. And it's something where at least then Eric, you can take Eric out of the equation. You can hire 20 people, and now you're closing, presumably more.
Well, I mean,
by himself.
If you're calling and you're setting up those demos, you get laydowns, like you get people who are just like, yeah, I'm ready to buy.
Right.
Like I'm just gonna buy, like I would say like, Eric's expertise, Eric's genius at what he does, maybe gets us an additional 5% versus like somebody who's an extremely competent salesperson, 5 or 10% more than, a very competent person would just get on their own. But it seems to me though, that like the companies who've reached, 7 figures, like, people who make like $1 million, $2 million a year, like it seems like they've mastered a lot of times it's just one funnel. It's just like one client acquisition strategy. A lot of times with agencies, you see a lot of guys doing it via Facebook, which, so like it's definitely a method. You hear other people doing it via podcasts. You hear other people doing it versus their own SEO,
or email. I've heard email
or email marketing. Yep. And there's tons of really gigantic agencies who did it via the calling. And it's really based. I mean, the call team got us really, like, it got us our main start. And then we pretty much mastered these like developing relationships with marketing partners. And now we're diving back into the call team, and it's great. They're pulling in like on average about like 3,500 of new business a week. So, it's can be done.
Oh, that's great. Oh, I want to give you a few minutes to take a whiz if you need to. Last chance for questions. If you want to talk more about this or learn more from Micheal, do you have a link you can drop? Because some of these people are from my list for Rainmaker, or just you have a website, just rainmaker.com or omgmachines.com.
Yeah, I think it's just at omgmachines.com. Yeah, if you go to omgmachines.com, let me pull this up. You can find more about, you can probably find out more about Rainmaker. If you guys know of like Mike Long, my business partner, he's always reaching out through a bunch of affiliates to be part of the program. Maybe some of you guys are already part of the program, in which case, congrats.
And if you want to come to our live event, SEO at the Beach, February 18th and 19th, both Micheal and I will be speaking there, and I'm really excited about that. Avoid the winter. Those of you, so Scott Bender, it looks like you're at the beach right now, or at least wanting to be at the beach. I don't know where I think you live in Denver, so it's already getting. You live in Denver, Scott? I think that it's pretty cold there. Orlando. Oh, that's right. Well, I'm getting you mixed up with somebody else. Another Scott must be. Okay, so not too far for you. You have the nice weather already, but many people do not. Come to the nice weather in February and join us. So.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this event, because we did the mastermind in the mountains of Breckenridge in August, and I can say like by far it was like the best event that I've gone to this year, and I've
Oh,
attended
nice.
quite a few SEO conferences. And what I really loved about the events that you're throwing, David, is that they're like intimate, you know what I mean? Like they're very like, it's a small group, it's like it's big enough where like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? Like there's some like really cool people here who've done some really great stuff, and there's plenty of people for you to talk to, but it's not like you're not like flooded with people. And what that means is you really get to know people. You really get to form great relationships with people. And I feel like you and I have gotten closer because of it.
Yeah.
Josh, B Craft, Scott Schaff, like Eric Fawcett, like all these, there's tons of guys there. And I feel like I was able to have like an engaging conversation with like literally everybody who is there. Um, yeah, we went hiking together. We were able to do activities together. So it wasn't only business. It was always fun. It was fun as well.
Yeah. I'm
So
always trying to integrate that.
yeah, I would love it for, guys, if you guys are thinking about it, definitely come. Love to chat, help you guys grow your agency and get to hang out on the beach for a couple of days.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Michael. I know that we did this the last minute. I wasn't sure what was going to happen today. So those of you who joined us, thank you very much. I know it was a last minute thing. And please reach out to me if you have any questions about anything, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Michael.
All right, guys. Thank you. See you, everybody.
Bye.